Welcome. My name is Natasha Sherman, and I am your host. And my guest today is Jeff Tittel. He is the director of the New Jersey chapter of the Sierra Club. I want to read a little from his bio. It could fill pages, but I'm going to kind of keep it shorter. Jeff has served as director of the New Jersey chapter of the Sierra Club for over 20 years. He has been an environmental advocate since he was a child on the first Earth Day. As a matter of fact, today he's wearing a pin from that first Earth Day. Just some of his legislative and regulatory lobbying achievements include passage of the California Car Law, New Jersey's Global Warming Act, and the Highlands Act. Jeff also helped pass a corporate business tax for environmental purposes. He worked for 30 years to save the 22,000-acre Sterling Forest and pushed for Category 1 surface water rules and 3-foot buffers. Jeff has been on transition teams for multiple governors and a Sandy task force under Obama. He was named by the Star-Ledger as one of the most influential people in New Jersey, listed as Insider New Jersey's top policymakers, and made the New Jersey Politics Power List, the only environmentalist to do so. Welcome. That's impressive. You've been busy.
Yes.
So the first thing I want to ask you is because, you know, in my mind, Sierra Club, I love the sound of it, and I get the little stickers and the emails, and, you know, the image still to me is a little bit of tree huggers, and I'm a tree hugger. Yeah. And so before the show, I asked the people in the studio. So one person didn't know what the Sierra Club was. One person said, oh yeah, hiking and nature and whatever. And so we all have, I think, a limited perception of this huge, expansive, powerful organization. And just as New Jersey director, you are on the ground kind of lobbying for the environment, pushing for environmental changes, working with the new governor. So I'd like you to kind of tell me what we need to know.
Well, the Sierra Club is the nation's oldest and largest environmental group. We have about 3 million members and supporters nationwide, 22,000 members and 80,000 supporters here in New Jersey. But we work on a variety of issues, not just the environment, because everything is sort of interrelated. So the Sierra Club is pro-choice, because you have to deal with population as part of the whole global environment. We support the rights of immigrants. We support Black Lives Matter. We believe in a $15 minimum wage and the right to collective bargaining, because when people have rights and they can work themselves out of poverty, they also live a better environment, and it also helps the planet. We also had opposed the Iraq War, and we work on issues not just hikes, but everything from, you know, saving a local piece of open space from development to cleaning up a toxic site or fighting for better cleanup laws to dealing with plastic bags. We've been fighting, you know, to get plastic bags banned in New Jersey, to climate change and dealing with all these pipelines and power plants that are undermining our attempts to deal with global warming. And so, you know, so we work on all those levels. We're also different in the respect that our policies are set by our members, and our board, whether it's at the state or local or national level, are elected by the members. So they tend to elect advocates because they know them, or people who are active. And so I'm also a lobbyist. I'm one of the few registered lobbyists in Trenton on the environmental side. We also endorse candidates and as well. We have a PAC as well. So we kind of get involved in everything.
Which impacts our lives at every level.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit on the pipelines, the proposed pipelines, because on the one hand, New Jersey is one of the most polluted states in the country, and now they're, rather than going to sustainable energy, we're looking at pipelines.
Well, you know, right now there's proposals for 8 pipelines in New Jersey and 5 natural gas-fired power plants. And the reason is that the fossil fuel industry wants to keep us addicted to natural gas and other, you know, and other fossil fuels, so that we don't move to a clean economy. Right now, the technology is there. The growth in renewable energy is happening exponentially. The use of electric vehicles is also happening exponentially. And they see the future, and they're trying to keep us past. It's sort of like the horse and buggy manufacturers trying to keep us riding horses when the Model T Ford was coming out. And it's the same thing happening now, that New Jersey could, within, I think, 15 years, get all of its power from renewables. It's doable. We could reduce greenhouse gases tremendously. Also, electric vehicles are here and they're coming, and more that New Jersey could have a carbon-free, in 20 years we could be carbon-free, that we can have, and in doing so we're going to create, millions of jobs, but more importantly we're going to save billions of dollars a year in health costs, because you won't have the same, number of people, especially children with asthma or some of the cancers we get from toxic sites and things in the environment. So, we're at the beginning of a revolution, a green revolution.
So, it occurs to me like there are overwhelming wins in going to, a clean environment. And even if we're just looking at it from a dollars and cents point of view, medical health care, what is, besides the, investors in keeping this going, what is stopping us?
Well, right now it's the fossil fuel in the White House, and also that the Murphy...
Did you say fossil fuel?
Yeah, the president, the fossil fuel in the White House. And, right now the state of New Jersey isn't doing what it could be doing too. We're hoping for really big changes with Murphy coming in, but so far they've been moving very slow. But we have the opportunity to really, advance. I mean, the first thing we have to do in New Jersey is that, the old saying is when you're in a hole, stop digging. Well, the governor needs to put a moratorium in place on these 8 pipelines and these 5 power plants that are being proposed. Because if they get built, it's going to be a 1/3 increase in greenhouse gases. So I helped write the Global Warming Response Act. We're supposed to reduce greenhouse gases by 80% by 2050. If we increase them by 1/3 now, we're never going to get there. So he needs to put a moratorium in on that, so that we can actually regulate CO2 or carbon dioxide like we regulate any other pollutant, that we start limiting and actually ratcheting down greenhouse gases from industrial and mobile sources, meaning cars and power plants and other things, so that we can get to the green economy. So what we need to do is, as we ratchet up renewable energy to get to 100%, we need to ratchet down fossil fuels to get to 0. So when we hit 100% renewable, we're at 0 fossil fuel and 0 carbon.
So what has Governor Murphy done and not done that have met your expectations or not met your expectations?
Well, he said a lot of good things, and he calls for 100% renewable, but we can't get there unless we stop these fossil fuel plants. He's talked about moving forward on electric vehicles, but we haven't passed any legislation to actually help build out the charging network that we need for electric vehicles. He says he cares about sea level rise and climate change, but we still have the old outdated rules where we allow development in areas that are going underwater instead of changing those rules to help protect those areas. So even though he's said a lot of good things, so far the administration hasn't moved forward. In fact, they haven't even rolled back or eliminated any of Christie's rules that attacked or weakened the environment when Christie was governor. So before we can move forward, we also have to get rid of those rollbacks. So right now it's been a lot of talk, but not a lot of action.
That's disappointing.
It's very disappointing. We were expecting a lot more.
And what power do we have?
I think the public always has the power. I mean, Sierra Club endorsed Governor Murphy. People here, all through New Jersey voted for him overwhelmingly. I'm expecting him to make changes, so it's up to us to put pressure on him to do what's right. I'm a believer. There's an old story from Franklin Roosevelt in the New Deal, where Roosevelt had a meeting with A. Philip Randolph and Norman Thomas and Jane Addams and Walter Reuther on Social Security. And Roosevelt said to that group, saying, "You have my support, now make me do it." Okay, if you really support these things, it's our job to make you do it. Otherwise, all that talk that you've been saying about climate change is just more hot air.
So, it's a terrible thing to say. I immediately go to, okay, he's going to want to get reelected.
Yeah.
So what kind of things do we as the public do right now?
So right now, Sierra Club formed with about 80 other organizations, some environmental, others like Indivisible or Act Together or Blue Jersey or more political, calling on the governor to put in place a moratorium on all the fossil fuel power plants and pipelines that are being proposed right now, so that we can get rid of Christie's rollback, so we could move forward on regulating greenhouse gases, so we could actually pass legislation to get us to 100% renewable. We need to have a timeout to move forward, and so that's part of it, because right now, people may not realize it, but just a few miles from here in South Brunswick, there's a proposal for a massive compressor station, which is a giant industrial facility that releases not only greenhouse gases but toxic air emissions and has runoff that includes things like chromium and benzene and everything else. To be able to bring gas, they want to build a pipeline through Raritan Bay that would actually stir up a lot of the toxic sediments there and get them back into the environment and into the fisheries to bring natural gas to Long Island. So what happens is the gas company makes the money, Long Island gets the gas, and we get the pipe. And that's one of the projects that we're asking the governor to turn down. The permits are in front of the DEP. And so far this administration has been very pro-pipeline and natural gas. They gave out the land use permits for a massive power plant in the Meadowlands. It would be the largest source of greenhouse gases in New Jersey, even larger than Chris Christie. And that's also to deliver electricity to New York City. He gave out an exemption for a power plant in the Musconetcong in the middle of the Highlands Preservation Area. These haven't been built yet because there's still other permits, but they seem to be, these permits seem to be moving forward. In the Pinelands, there's a pipeline being proposed called Southern Reliability Link, cutting through the Pinelands. They started construction even though the Sierra Club is still in court against the Board of Public Utilities and the Pinelands Commission for approving it, and we've asked the governor to put a stay on it so we have our day in court. And the administration is not only didn't put a stay, they're still supporting this pipeline that was approved under Christie. So it's now Governor Murphy's pipeline through the Pinelands. It's no longer Christie's pipeline. So right now, as I say, the actions speak louder than words, and the actions haven't been there.
It's actually quite terrifying. Mm-hmm. And so, one of the things that in kind of preparing for this show, I was doing research on the Sierra Club, et cetera, and reading about you, and I came across the Jersey Sierran. That's like a newsletter, and I would recommend everybody look at that because, again, it's so rich with information, and there are overwhelming pieces of information, like, oh my God, we're never going to win at this, but also there are things, suggestions of what you personally can do. So I thought that was really useful. Is there any good news?
Oh yeah, it's always good news. I mean, you have to understand that, we have to fight these battles and win. I mean, there are positive things happening in New Jersey. We just, Hoboken, we were there with the mayor Monday, has gone to 100% carbon-free by 2045. They're putting in a plan to do it. Lambertville, where I live, has banned plastic bags, styrofoam, and straws. Jersey City has banned plastic bags and is pushing electric vehicles. A lot of communities are doing a lot of wonderful things, and even the state's doing some good things. It's just not enough. So a lot of it is really up to us to keep pushing and pushing. Look, everything we've ever won in the state on the environment came because people fought for it. If you see, a sign that says Green Acres, it's because somebody in that area fought either to stop a development or to lobby to get it purchased. We stopped ocean dumping in New Jersey when they used to dump, sewage off our coast or medical waste off our beaches. Back in the 1970s when I first got involved, they wanted to build a highway right over the DNR Canal to bring 95 up to New Brunswick, and we stopped that. The Great Swamp was going to be a jet port, and a group of people in that area fought it, and now it's it's a national wildlife refuge. I mentioned I spent 30 years fighting to save Sterling Forest, who's proposed as a city of 35,000 people above New Jersey's largest drinking water reservoir, and now it's a 22,000-acre state park. It took 30 years to get it all, but it's about perseverance and fighting. The Pinelands, was was going to be giant, Levittown, and it's, we have a 1 million-acre preserve, not far from Princeton, where you can go kayaking or hiking and not even see a house. So we've made a lot of progress. When I first got involved as a child, not only did the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland catch fire, so did the Passaic, and now the Cuyahoga River, the fish are considered safe to eat 49 years later. So
wow. We
have made a lot of progress. We have a lot more to do, and problem is, with Governor Murphy is he doesn't realize that after 8 years of Christie either rolling back or denying or delaying, action on the environment, there's a massive pent-up demand by people in the state to move us forward environmentally, whether it's on climate change or clean water or electric vehicles. People want change, and they expect them to bring that change. That's what he promised, and we're going to hold them to it.
Good. It occurs like whack-a-mole. That game where...
Yeah, I play it all the time.
Yeah, it's one one of my favorites. But
No, I mean, I play with politicians.
yes, exactly.
If they won't listen, if you work with them quietly and they won't listen or do their job or they break their promises, then yeah, you gotta hold them accountable. And,
yes.
One time I was having a little battle with Senator Menendez on an issue, and then the next day I did an event with him on working. We helped us create the Great Falls National Historic Park in Patterson, and I went to the next day to showing. And when Menendez brought me up to speak, he says, "Today I'm on the same side of Jeff Tittel. It's a lot better than being on the other side."
Yes, and again, you have to really be unstoppable. And clearly, this is your life's mission, your passion, and
yes.
contributing to the planet on a personal, like individual level, like out there to the viewing audience. People are overwhelmed. There are so many things that if you take a look that need addressing, that are, the drug problem, the wrongfully convicted, sex trafficking. I mean, if you just notice those headlines, it would be enough to kind of want to hide.
Right.
So, and people have busy lives. They're trying to survive. What is it that you would suggest, like on an individual level?
Well, there's a lot of things, and a lot of people are doing good things on an individual level. They're buying locally grown produce, organic produce. That helps the planet. They're buying more fuel-efficient vehicles, whether it's a hybrid, or a Tesla. They're making you save money. You're buying greener appliances that use less electricity, LED light bulbs. So there's a lot of people are doing on a daily basis, recycling that are doing on a daily basis that actually helps. But they also can, have their voices heard, because that's the most important thing. So, it doesn't take a lot to go out and call the governor's office and just say, we want a moratorium on fossil fuels so we can deal with climate change. Just 2 minutes, go tweet it to the governor's tweet account, pass things along on, environmental issues or tips to your friends on Facebook. You can do a lot while you're sitting home, commiserating about the tough day you had at work or about all these problems. It doesn't take a lot, or you can join the Sierra Club and other groups. But the main thing you should also do is go out and enjoy some of the beauty we have here, so you appreciate the environment and nature, so maybe it'll inspire you to do more. When I have tough days where things aren't going right, I go up into the mountains up in Ringwood where my family had a summer place. And I get up on a mountain there and I look out and I said, well, over there they tried to do uranium mining back in the 80s. We stopped them. They tried to do a quarry over there. That mountain there that's preserved was going to be 1,000 condominiums. That was going to be a chemical plant over there. And over there was Sterling Forest, which is now a park. And so, go to the Pinelands and enjoy that people fought to save that. And Sierra Club, 40 years ago worked hard at the Great Swamp. And I think that'll recharge your batteries to take on a lot of these challenges.
I think you're right, and I really appreciate the fact that you are already acknowledging people that some of the things that they're doing in their day-to-day lives already just automatically make a difference. I have a question to ask you that's personal. So I sign a lot of petitions that come across my email, and then they say call the governor's office, whatever. So I am a Canadian citizen. But I am a resident of this state.
Yeah.
Can I make the call legitimately?
Well, you're a resident, even if you're not a resident. I mean, we have people who were fighting. We stopped this coal plant down in Cape May County. We had people calling in and doing things. One person called up and helped. Lived in Marin County, but he used to go to Ocean City as a kid, and he hated smelling that plant growing up. And so, yes, everybody can help out and do things.
Okay, great, because I avoided calling thinking, well, they're going to call me out and say, what right do you have?
You pay taxes in New Jersey?
Of course.
Sure. You breathe the air here.
Okay, good. So this is good for everybody who's in my situation.
Or anybody who, cares about New Jersey, even if they don't live here anymore.
Yeah. So I wanted to, maybe you could say a little bit about the Princeton Student Climate Initiative.
Yeah, a member of members have been working with. They're working on a concept of trying to bring forward a carbon tax to try to get carbon to pay its societal cost. I mean, what people don't realize in this country, we have so subsidized the fossil fuel industry, whether we allow them to drill off the coast of this country for pennies on the dollar, or public lands, or cutting pipelines through up to publicly owned open space, or the environmental and health costs from it. And so what they're trying to do is come up with a what is the real cost of carbon to society and to the environment, and then try to develop a carbon tax to make them pay their true costs, so that monies can help get us off of the fossil fuel addiction.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Though I have a couple more questions,
Sure.
but one of them was, we were talking about the fact that there is a classism to pollution.
Oh, yes.
So talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I learned growing up in Newark, in Hillside, is I can go behind my house and there was a little stream and I could throw matches at it and it would flare up. I'd go up to Ringwood, where we had a little cabin up in the mountains, and I could drink the water out of the stream. So you kind of get that at a young age. But when you look around this country, and New Jersey in particular, that the areas that have the worst pollution, have all the polluting facilities, the toxic sites, tend to be areas that are of low income or minority. So we say we want, we're talking about environmental justice, but what we really have in this state and in the country is environmental racism, where we have environmental racism, classism, and sexism. Because when you look at where these facilities are, or where these toxic sites are, you have an incinerator in Newark and Camden. You don't see one in Short Hills or Ridgewood. You have refineries in Linden. You don't see one here in Princeton. You have Superfund sites in Jersey City. You don't tend to see them, in Navesink Highlands. I'll use that. So because for a lot of industries, they put their facilities in the places where the people had the least voice to fight them. That's what it came. It's what happens is because communities that tend to be wealthier have more resources to fight things. One of the good things about like the Penny's pipeline that we've been involved in fighting is that it's a relatively wealthy area. When we went in there and organized almost 5 years ago now, and we ended up telling all the people, don't let them on your property, don't survey. If you did, rip it up. We got 70% of the property owners to say not to let them on, and what happened is they never got enough information to get their permits, and it's taken them years, and it's delayed them by 4 years. But one of the reasons that's been successful, it's also a fairly well-to-do area. When we were fighting a pipeline through the middle of Linden into Jersey City, we didn't have those kinds of resources or so many people getting involved because they're so busy dealing with all the other problems. So there is, even when we win environmental battles or fight environmental battles, areas that tend to be wealthier tend to do better, though we're trying to change that because we've been doing a lot of work in Jersey City, and we see Jersey City going greener and greener. So, but yes.
It's interesting in my research because it occurs to me that, it's easy to go gloom and doom, but I noticed that, so Chicago, I think, created a commitment to have, to alleviate all of this. The largest city in the United States to commit to 100% clean energy by 2035.
Yeah.
And then joining 118 other cities across the country. And they said 6 of which have already reached their goals, which most of us don't know that anybody has reached that goal. So in that sense, it's promising.
It's not just the kind of more progressive areas. Last month, the state of Arizona put a moratorium on natural gas plants because it's because there are too many of them being proposed, and it's undermining other forms of energy, especially renewables. So, yeah, I think there's a tremendous amount of energy out there to fight for against climate change and to do the right thing. But part of it is also we need to get our leaders, especially in New Jersey, to see that, to move us forward, because we need to be moving forward a lot quicker than we are.
Yeah. So in the last couple of minutes we have, what's your message? What do you and maybe you could talk about Sierra Club having a playbook.
Well, I think our message is get active and be vocal. There's a lot we need to do. I mean, we're working with towns to ban plastic bags, and 20 of them in New Jersey have, and we're doing that because we're trying to get the state of New Jersey to do it. And if you care about fossil fuels, you should be banning plastic bags because the bags come mostly from fracking from natural gas. So that's one thing we believe. I think our biggest part of our playbook is that we have to work together at the local level, at the regional or state level, and at the national level to fight for our future. That as long as the Trump administration is trying to roll back decades of environmental protections, we have to stand up to them. But while we're fighting them and trying to block them from doing it, we can do a lot here ourselves, whether it's in your own community and banning plastic bags or moving to 100% renewable, like Hoboken is also doing, or we can, make sure we're doing a better job at recycling, and also having more open space and more playgrounds, cleaning up, water. One of the things we didn't get a chance to talk about, but because about the social impacts. So do you know that 80% of people in this country that are in jail had lead poisoning as children?
I did not know that.
Because lead not only, it causes learning disabilities and that. So there are these interrelationships you don't realize between some of the other, between failing schools and even, crime rates dealing with environmental pollutants. And, Stanford University did a study that if New Jersey went to 100% renewable energy by 2035, we'd save $60 billion in a year in health costs. So you think about that we go to zero carbon by then, but so you think there's a lot there. We have the public on our side, we have the science on our side, but again, our message is really to go out there and be active and be vocal and let your local, state, and national leaders hear from you so that they can do the right thing too.
Yes.
And if they don't, get rid of them.
Yes, exactly. And last but not least, just go out and appreciate.
Yes. The spring is beautiful.
It is.
This weekend is, I don't know when it's going to rain, but this weekend is Shad Fest in Lambertville.
Yes.
Because at one time the river was too polluted. Now they've, come back, and so this is the perfect time of year to go out and enjoy nature. Take a ride on the DNR, take your bike on the DNR canal path, or take a walk because, we've made a lot of progress. We have a lot more to do, but you should also enjoy and take what we've accomplished.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
It. Thank you.
And thank you for doing what you do and having this be your life's mission.
Thanks.
My name is Natasha Sherman. Thank you for joining us.